how we came to be here tonight. So, about 2 years ago, my son was 11 years old, and he's an enormous Pearls fan. I was trying to get him off to bed, and he insisted that I send a question via Twitter to Stephan. Because in the strip, around that time, Guard Duck decided to leave and move out into the woods, and he'd been gone for a while. And every day it was a search, is this the day Guard Duck comes back? And the answer invariably was no, there's no Guard Duck again today. So finally, Dad, please tweet Stephan and ask him, is Guard Duck coming back? I thought we solved that with the tweet. Literally 2 minutes later. And also, he asked for strips with Guard Duck's Pony Express rider and Larry and Patty's second child. By the way, they both need names. So he's a little bit of a completionist. He's a little bit into the whole story there. Thought we were done. 2 minutes later, I'm blowing up Stephan's Twitter mention. I think I got him off to bed. I think we're good, but no. About 6 minutes later, he now said, more dinky duckling and rat's person bed. If you know what that is, then you're as deep into Stephan as anybody else in this room. So it's been, it was nice because Stephan took all this in good spirit and told me back, hey, I'll DM you and I'll tell you that Guard Duck is coming back. I just don't know when. Tell your son it'll be okay. And, oh, by the way, do you work for the Dallas Morning News? Yes, I do. Great. So we started messaging back and forth, and the next thing was, hey, if I do a book tour through Dallas, let's make something happen at the Dallas Morning News. Here we are 2 years later, and I'm very proud to introduce to you one of the top 5 lawyers to have a syndicated cartoon featuring pig in the United States, Stephan Pastis.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Boy, what a huge crowd. Thank you. Will's getting his notes. Hang on.
Okay.
Do you want this?
All right, so Stephan's here. You can see him here, or you can see him here. It's the same look either way. Those of you who read Pearls know that Stephan is no stranger to wordplay.
Oh yeah, this one. You want me to read it? Yes. This is a take on the old Who's On First, the rock and roll edition. Rat says, thank you. Rat says, whose drummer was Keith Moon? And Goat says, right. And Rat says, whose? And Goat says, yes. And Rat says, what's the name? Watts is the drummer for the Rolling Stones. I don't care about the Rolling Stones. Whose drummer is Keith Moon? You are correct there. Where was the guitarist for the Grateful Dead? How is he relevant? How is the guitarist for a different band? Who? Yes. The Who? No. Yes. Whose guitarist is Pete Townsend? I don't know. Third base. When would you like this hit? When was the guitarist for Traffic? I was just saying, I talked to the staff earlier, and that took me longer than any strip I've ever done, because the trick there is, you have 2 conversations, and Goat has to be able to hear every one of those sentences, literally, and then Rat has to hear them, so you gotta do 2 conversations. Yeah, and you know what people said? They loved it, but they all complained about the last line. Apparently Winwood was the keyboardist. But I Wikipedia'd it, and it said he was the guitarist, so there you go. Yeah. Yeah.
He plays guitar too.
Oh, see, thank you.
He did.
Where were you when I needed you?
Right here.
So that seems like a stretch, but that's not the farthest you'll go if there's a pun on the end of it.
Oh yeah, this is very convoluted. And by the way, I know that puns split the audience in 2. So with that warning, hey Rat, who's your friend? And Rat says, he's the Don of one of the local crime families, but don't bother him, he's messing with some flashlight. And he says, it's okay, I'm just putting batteries in it. Why is it shaped like a woman? And he says, it's Elizabeth Hurley, that actress from Austin Powers. I think she's beautiful, so I had it specially made. Wow, that's really Pig, I need your help. Hey, Ron Say, former third baseman for the LA Dodgers. What do you need? I dropped my keys outside, but it's too dark to find them. Got a light I can borrow? Here, borrow mine. Thank you, sir. Be right back. And he says, gosh, I hope it works. Not sure if those batteries were fresh. And Pig says, oh, I should check. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's pearly light? I know.
We were teasing Stephan earlier. Around here, we'd say that's driving around the world to get to Waco.
Yeah, the key to these, it's funny, I get asked a lot why I put myself in it, but the key is if you end on this panel here, it's sort of like 1940s, 50s humor, like take my wife, please, and then there's the drum roll. So if you end on the joke, it's a much different strip. So sort of a more modern take on it, or postmodern, I guess they would call it, is to comment on it. So in other words, I'm in on the joke with you, and then it works, and then it lets me get away with murder. So, yeah. And then also I get asked a lot how I do them. So I come up with the quote, and then I just work backwards towards it, saying whatever I need to to get there.
How many beers were involved?
How many beers are involved? Yes, quite a few. No, I write very sober. Yes.
So sometimes you put yourself in your strip, and it's for a different reason.
Yes.
In this next one, I think you'll be able to tell me that you're not even the most famous cartoonist in your strip.
Oh, let's see. Oh, yeah. All right, go back one and I'll give you the story, then I'll reveal it. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, this is a crazy, crazy, wild story. So you all know Bill Watterson, the creator of Calvin and Hobbes, right? So you may know or you may not know, he is a recluse. He is the Greta Garbo or the J.D. Salinger of our industry. Hardly anybody has ever even met him. So I was going through Cleveland on a book tour, and I knew he lived somewhere around there. And I knew a guy who worked for the Washington Post who was doing a book project with Bill Watterson. So I said to the guy at the Post, is there any way when I go through Cleveland that you think Bill Watterson would have coffee with me? And so he said, well, I can ask. So he asked, and the answer was no. Bill really is brilliant. So I just finished the tour and I came home, and when I got back home, my buddy called and he said, well, did you email Bill? And I said, no, it sounds like he doesn't want me to bother him. So he goes, no, just email him. So I emailed him and I praised him for all his work and the influence he had on me. But then I took a bit of a risk, and I let off the email with one of my strips that had just been in the paper. And in the strip, single Stephan is going to bars trying to pick up women. And so I go up to a woman and I go, hey, I do a syndicated comic strip. And she goes, oh yeah, well, what do you do? And then thinking that pearls won't give me any action, I go, ever heard of Calvin and Hobbes? And in the next panel, I'm in bed with her. And that's the strip I sent to Bill. So as soon as I said it, I thought, oh, that was so dumb. That's my very first impression. So I sent it to him, and he responded. And the very beginning of his email was something like, oh yeah, that used to happen to me all the time. So I knew he was cool. And then the kicker, here's the crazy, crazy part. He then goes on to say, I have an idea for a project we could do together. And that's like if you're a film student, first-year film student, and Martin Scorsese says, calls you and says, oh, you want to direct a film with me? Like, not even in the ballpark. So he wanted to collaborate. He wanted to return to the comics page for the first time since Calvin to draw my strip. And so I wrote back and I said, I tried to be professional. I said, yes, I'll do whatever you want, including setting my hair on fire. And so he said, okay, we just need to come up with a premise. My suggestion, this is Bill talking, my suggestion is you get hit on the head and suddenly you know how to draw. I didn't go with that one. So what I ended up doing was creating a little girl named Libby, who I call Lib, because that's Bill backwards. And she makes fun of my drawing, and she comes over to the house, and I hand her the pen, and I say, you draw it. And everything she draws is Bill's work. So I'll show it to you in a second, but his only condition was I could not tell anybody that he was involved. And talk about sitting on a secret. Holy smokes. I had to wait until the very last strip ran. So, yeah, so there it is. So there's Libby talking to me. I think she says, hi, Mr. Pastis, you drawing a croc scene? And I say, yes, Libby, I am. And let me guess, you can draw it better. Well, you know what? Here's my pen, Lib. Knock yourself out. And this is all Bill. Ugh, Stephan tastes like crap. Good riddance. Now we drawn good, this strip's funnier already. So you know what the funny part was? The funny part was that the secret got out that first day. And it got out because comic strip aficionados recognized one thing, and that was these shoes. Only one person draws shoes like that. So everybody started guessing Bill, and I had to squelch all the rumors and lie. But yeah, it was awesome. So we drew it for 3 days, and when it was revealed that it was him, it was front page of the Washington Post, it was the New York Times, it was in Rolling Stone. It was the biggest story I've ever been a part of. And the condition was I could pass on none of the media requests to Bill. So there were calls, there were emails like the Today Show saying, hey, we'd like to have Bill on the show. To which I said no. And they said, don't you have to ask him? No. so yeah. And the very last kicker I'll tell you, so when these were running in June of 2014, Bill Watterson was scheduled to go down to Washington, D.C. to finish the book he was working on. I was going down there roughly the same time. Bill actually changed his flight so that we overlapped. So I got to spend 2 days in Washington, D.C. for about a couple hours each day with Bill, asking him everything I ever wanted to know about Calvin. And I'll tell you, when I saw him in that room, it was, I wanted to just touch him. I mean, that's really him, and it was wonderful, so that was great.
And also you auctioned those off, correct?
Oh yeah, so Bill took all 3 originals and auctioned them, and with the money going to Parkinson's research, they raised $74,000. So, yeah. $1.50 of it was my contribution.
So everybody loved that. I remember that being a big story, your collaboration. Your crossovers into other comics territory
Yes.
also were pretty popular with your fans. I mean,
Yes.
This one is one you'd like to talk about.
Oh yeah, the family circus. Brad says, all right, I don't get it. We've been searching 4 years for this Osama bin Laden fellow and we can't find him anywhere. Want to know my theory? Sure, what's your theory? I think he snuck into our country as an exchange student and is presently living with some American family who has no idea who he is. Oh please, what American family could be that out of touch? I'm sorry, Osama, but at the end of grace, we say amen, not death to America. So a couple stories about it. Bill Keane, who's since deceased, but at the time this came out, Bill was the creator of Family Circus. He had the greatest sense of humor. You might not always know it from Family Circus. But in real life, he was hilarious, and he loved this stuff. He asked for the original of that, and he framed it, and when I went to his house in Phoenix, it was hanging on the wall of his den. So, super, super cool guy. And then Bill's son, who is Jeff Keane, who does the strip now, him and I do the USO tours together, so we went to Iraq, we went to Afghanistan. So the truth is we're really good friends. So, but I'll tell you one quick story. Some of you I'm sure have heard this, but whenever I do talks around the country, somebody inevitably asks what the other creators think when I make fun of them. So I was giving this speech in Comic-Con in San Diego, and I knew Jeff Keane, the creator, was going to be there. So I said to Jeff, inevitably someone's going to ask me what these other creators think, and you'll be in the room, and I can explain that we're good friends, and maybe I can introduce you. And Jeff said, that would be fine, we could do it. So I give the speech, and when I'm done, like I had set this thing up, the very first question was, what do the other creators think when you make fun of the strip, of their strip, particularly the Family Circus guys? So I go, oh my God. Well, first off, we're really good friends. They're very good sports about it. And as a matter of fact, Jeff Keane is here in the audience today. So I said, Jeff, could you just stand up? So in the very back row of this huge auditorium, I see Jeff stand up. And the only thing I hear is, screw you, Pastis!
Okay, so we're going to change change gears for just a second, and I want to know why you would do this to your readers.
Oh, yeah. This is a really hard one to read. Do you think it's possible to move people with a comic strip? You mean affect them emotionally? No, I mean get them to move, like to look at something in the mirror. Please don't tell me you just reversed my comic strip. Hey, you're finally moving people. So, thank you. So I just love to mess around. Sometimes the challenge of that one is the paginators, those are the people who form your comic section, they thought it was a mistake. So they wanted to reverse it. And in fact, I think one paginator did. So imagine that the right way. It's the dumbest strip ever.
I'm going to take a pause here, and I don't know if everybody here knows who all of the characters are, but some of you certainly do. You have something you want to say about those two on the left?
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, the characters on the side there, the polar bear and the kid, that's Timmy Failure. It's a series of middle grade books I do about a little boy who's a detective, but he's not smart at all and he can't solve anything. And he's got a 1,500-pound polar bear. So I did it a few years ago and the series sort of took off. So the 6th book came out this week and it's been translated into 33 languages. And so here's the really cool part, that you're going to be the first to hear this story, because for the last 2 years, I've had to say nothing because I have a confidentiality clause in my contract. But this is it. Disney wanted to buy the series to make into a movie. So when they do something like that, any of the studios do something like that, the first thing they do is they, believe it or not, they kick the creator out of the room. They figure you've never written a movie, this is big time. So what I said was, I want to be one of the writers. And they said, basically that's not going to happen. So I said, well, I knew they wanted the rights. So I said, well, I won't sell you the rights if I don't get to be one of the writers. And they agreed. So they paired me with a guy who loved the books, who was a director, and had co-written the movie Up. Did you see Up? So we started working together. His name is Tom McCarthy, and right in the middle of working together, he goes off and does this movie called Spotlight, which wins Best Picture, and he gets Best Screenplay. So he's holding all these Oscars, and suddenly he's working with me. So he's been very patient. The last 2 years, we've worked together almost every day doing the script. So word is that they're supposed to start production later in the year, fingers crossed. So thank you. Yeah.
That's terrific. For all your fans who love you.
Thank you.
There is a demographic of people that does not necessarily love you.
What?
It's the people who ride around on bicycles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this one caused a lot of problems. Hey, if it's not my good friend Jeff the cyclist, how are you, Jeff? Better than you. And that's why I show my superiority by riding my bike right in front of your car instead of in the bike lane. Gosh, Jeff, I wish you wouldn't do that because eat my spandex greatness, fatty McFat fat. And that's why I try to run them over. Jeff, you're on my breakfast. I stamp out your fattening food as a favor to you. So does anybody want to guess? There was only one line in here that caused the furor. You want to guess what it is? Shout it out if you think you know.
McFat. Fatty McFat
Yeah,
fat.
that one.
Oh.
So what I had unwittingly run into is what I would call the third rail of cycling, which is a lot of people have close calls with cars, and a lot of people who drive the cars are jerks, and I knew none of that. And holy smokes, did the emails pour in. Short of Turkish people, I'll get to that later, I would say the people with the worst sense of humor in the world are cyclists.
All right, let's take another look at your excellence at wordplay.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Pig, let me borrow that pen. Oh, gosh, Red, I'd like to, but these are special pens, and this is my second to last one. What's so special about them? They're the ultimate writing instrument. I use them to keep score when I play team Frisbee. Plus, they all have famous people on them. Who's that on there? That's Sean Penn. He's my favorite actor. Where'd you buy them? At the University of... Stop! What? Please don't say the University of Pennsylvania. Why? Because that would be your penultimate pen, ultimate pen. So those just results. I'll be sitting there doodling, and I see the word penultimate on something, and then I think about turning the word around, ultimate pen, and then I think, how can I get the word ultimate in again, and then pen in again, and I just go to town. So, yeah.
So Stephan, I have a personal question to ask you.
Yes.
Are things okay at home?
I know what you're going to. I know what you're going to show. There it is. This caused another little issue. Our creator, Stephan Pastis, has been thrown out of his house by his wife, Stacy. Oh no, what's he going to do? Where's he going to live? And then I say, move over. Not happening. All right, let me tell you about this. So she would deny this, but my wife, Stacy, does not read the strip. Very rarely. So I'm about 6 months ahead of deadline, and when I did this, I didn't think to warn her. So this appeared in papers, and on the day it appeared in papers, she got a call at home from a real estate agent. The woman who had just sold us the house we're in now. And she said to Stacy, I just want to tell you that whatever happens, I'm here for you. Then she gets an email from our accountant saying, I know what's going on, and if you need my support, I'll help you. Stacy was wondering what the heck is going on. So, by the way, here's the kicker to that. Nobody offered any support to me. So it just became a very big story, and everybody was curious, and they thought I had really gotten divorced. I'm sure there's some of you who think that right now, and I had not. So the Washington Post called, and I gave them a big interview, and it was on the front page of their lifestyle section, all about the fact Pearl's creator's still married. So, my inspiration was, I don't know how many of you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. You know how Larry David kind of plays himself, but he exaggerates it? I thought, since I'm in the strip, maybe I could play with it. So I just didn't know it would cause what it caused. So, yeah, it's strange, I know.
I think they all love you.
They what?
I think they all love you.
Oh, good.
So before I go to this next one, which is about a group of people who may not like you, do you want to tell the Turk story?
Oh, yeah. You guys want to hear the Turkish story? Yeah, that's the worst one ever. I had a character in the strip that was a llama. He was a diplomat. I thought that was funny because when llamas get perturbed, they spit on the... Okay. That wasn't the problem. The problem was I wanted to give him kind of a foreign-sounding name, something that sounded like he could be a representative of some country, so I named him Ataturk. I thought the name sounded very funny. It sounds like Attaboy, Ataturk. That is all I thought about it. And I knew we had to do with Turkey, but that was it. So the strip runs, and on the morning that it runs, I get more complaints than normal. And they're very angry. And what they start telling me is, you can't make fun of that guy. He's the founder of modern Turkey. And secondly, he's revered like a religious figure. And as many of them reminded me, to publicly criticize him while standing on Turkish soil is to get yourself a 13-year prison sentence. So I'm glad I did it here. And so it got big enough that I decided to respond to one of them. And I was super casual. And I even threw in the word dude, which I still regret. And I said, dude, I have to tell you, I know practically nothing about the guy. I know he has something to do with Turkey, but the truth is, I just like the sound of the name. Ataturk, Attaboy, Ataturk. What I did not know was that the person who had asked that question was a stealth reporter for the largest Turkish-American newspaper in the United States, doing an article on that offensive strip, and now including a great quote by me. That's not the worst of it. Then they figured out my last name, Pastis, and they realized it's Greek. And Greeks and Turks, they don't get along. So they thought this Greek boy had pulled one over on them. And then it exploded. So over the course of the next 6 days, I got 2,400 emails. They would pour in the middle of the night. While I was sleeping, they were up, and vice versa. And they were furious, and they were violent, and they threatened. So for a while, Stacy and the kids left the house. leaving me, by the way. I guess they figured they were going to get somebody just limited to me. So, and so we hoped it would go away, but it did not go away, because then the Turkish ambassador to the United States of America, in what must have been a very slow day at the embassy, decided to write a letter demanding an apology. And he wrote it to Scripps, the parent of my syndicate. He wrote it to everybody. So all the lawyers gathered in New York City to craft what I would call a non-apology apology, as in the kind you give to your spouse when you say, "I'm sorry you were so offended." Which, if you think about it, is not an apology at all. So they work on every sentence. I'm on speakerphone in California. All the lawyers are in this room. I wait till the whole thing is done, a very heavy, serious day, and I go, "Hey, can I just add a little PS?" And nobody laughs. And one of the lawyers says, "Yeah, Stephan, what do you want to say?" And I go, "P.S., please give Cyprus back." Nobody laughed. Nobody laughed.
They opted not to include that. That was good censorship.
That was good censorship.
So speaking of censorship,
Yeah. Oh, very good. Okay. Hey, Jeff the cyclist. Why do you need to wear such tight clothes? So that you commoners can see my every muscle and bulge, all of which is the product of hard work and good nutrition. Why, just look at my package of healthy snacks I carry with me wherever I go. Close call, Jeff the cyclist. I'm fit and clever. Could you ban Jeff for life? And so let me tell you, this is this little trick I've learned. So there are certain newspaper editors that are more sensitive than others, and they are gunning for pearls. And there is one particular editor of a very large major daily that has warned my syndicate 5 or 6 times. And I don't want to mention the paper because I don't want to embarrass her. The Seattle Times. So what I do now is I include the censor, because if the censor's there, you know, they read this and they go, "Oh, that's trouble." And then I think subconsciously they go, "Oh, I don't want to be that guy." And that buys me all this leeway. So that really has been a good, useful trick for me. So, and this next one's an even better example. Okay, this one I don't even think I should have done. "Okay, Rat, why'd you invite me to this Japanese restaurant? To bury the hatchet. I think the two of us have antagonized each other long enough." "Well, thank you, I appreciate that. So what should I eat?" "Eat shiitake." Are not a fan of mushrooms? That was really pushing it. Yeah.
I couldn't believe you got away.
Yeah, I can't either.
it's good for Garth. All right. So, speaking of people who also don't like you,
Yes.
find another group.
Oh yeah. This I'm going to show you so I can show you the letter that follows, because you won't believe it. "Do you think if we're bad in life, we really go to a place called hell? And if so, what's it like?" And Rat says, "Hell is a small windowless room filled with nothing but the sound of polka music. I'll repent right now. Remember, only Satan could have invented the accordion." So wait, before you show it. Okay, so what do you think the problem was? Using the word hell, often problematic. Do you think I heard from maybe priests because it's spiritual? Theologians? No. You want to show them who I heard from? Dear Mr. Pastis, in several recent issues of the Chicago Sun-Times, those of us active in the polka industry were disheartened to find derogatory references about polka in your Pearls comic strip. If you're capable of appreciating our concern, we ask that you refrain from any further insulting references. A public apology would go a long way in demonstrating your sensitivity. Not only did they not get the apology, I was so encouraged by that even though I really didn't care that much about polka, I really ramped up the polka strips. Just trying to get another letter. But they wouldn't send it, so. Yeah, so if you have a complaint about a comic strip, don't send it to the guy, because we love that. So I'll tell you one thing I do. I love doing this. So when you start out as a syndicated cartoonist, when you get those complaints, especially the really angry ones, they really throw you, because you don't know, maybe you aren't good. But when you've done it for 16 years, you're confident enough so you can have fun with it. So sometimes I get those emails that are all caps. You bleeping suck, you should quit, you're terrible, you're the least funny on the page. Okay, when I get those now, I get super excited, because what I do is I write back. And it's me writing, but I make it look like a form letter. And it says, "Dear Pearls fan named," and I fill in their name on the line. "Dear Pearls fan named Mark. Thank you for your support of Pearls Before Swan. Due to the overwhelming popularity of the strip, Stephan cannot answer each and every one of his fans. But he appreciates your support and will now put you on the Pearls mailing list unless you provide a reason why we should do so." To which they inevitably go, "I'm not a fan and I don't want to be on your mailing list." And when I get that, I send them that last response a second time. So they find themselves in an endless vortex and they can't get out of it. Oh, man, do I love that.
Shouldn't have done it in the first place.
Let's talk about your influence in international law.
Oh, yeah. This is crazy. I won't read the whole thing. All you need to know here, remember Rapp became president in January? So his first task as president, he says, "What first, sir?" And he says, "No more pineapple on pizza," right? So 2 days after this strip runs, 2 days, this appears in the news. Icelandic president wants to ban pineapple on pizza. Coincidence? I think not.
Thank you for those stories. I'd like to open up a little Q&A from the audience. I'll walk around and pass the mic for
You
a
can
few
find
questions
Q&A
before we
on
go
the
on to
live
the
stream.
book